Gothic literature was the predecessor of modern horror fiction in both theme and style. It involved the supernatural like ghosts, dark castles, hereditary curses, disturbing dreams, omens, sorrow, terror. When the Gothic writers saw the individual, they saw the potential of evil. They examined the darkness of the supernatural and gave nature the power of destruction. Gothic romance was the most prevalent form of the genre. These novels often centered around a naive but dynamic young woman who finds herself in the company of a wealthy but intimidating older man with a mysterious past and living in a gloomy mansion with peculiar servants or children. Jane Eyre includes the following Gothic elements. First of all, the action takes place in isolated and remote locations like an old castle or haunted mansions with graveyards nearby. The castle often contains secret passages and corridors, trapdoors, secret rooms, trick panels with hidden levers, dark or hidden staircases, and possibly ruined sections. There is indeed a secret room in Thornfield. About Lowood, this is a quote. Rain, wind, and darkness filled the air. Nevertheless, I dimly discerned a wall before me and a door open in it. Through this door I passed with my new guide. She shut and locked it behind her. This is a quote about Thornfield. All these relics gave to the third story of Thornfield Hall the aspect of a home of the past, a shrine of memory. I liked the hush, the gloom, the quaintness of these retreats in the day, but I by no means coveted a night's repose on one of those wide and heavy beds, shut in, some of them with doors of oak, shaded others with round old English hangings crusted with thick work, portraying effigies of strange flowers and stranger birds and strangest human beings, all of which would have looked stranger indeed by the pallid gleam of moonlight. The second element of the Gothic is the atmosphere of mystery and suspense. The work is pervaded by a threatening feeling, a fear enhanced by the unknown. This atmosphere is sometimes advanced when characters see only a glimpse of something. Was that a person rushing out the window or only the wind blowing a curtain? Sometimes there are supernatural or paranormal events that occur, such as ghosts, spirits, vampires, or giants walking, or inanimate objects coming to life. A quote about the Red Room. A bed supported on massive pillars of mahogany, hung with curtains of deep red damask, stood out like a tabernacle in the center. The two large windows, with their blinds always drawn down, were half shrouded in festoons and folds of similar drapery. This room was chill because it seldom had a fire. It was silent because remote from the nursery and kitchen. Solemn because it was known to be seldom entered. Mr. Reed had been dead 9 years. It was in this chamber he breathed his last. Here he lay in state. Hence, his coffin was borne by the undertaker's man, and since that day, a sense of dreary consecration had guarded it from frequent intrusion. I lifted my head and tried to look boldly round the dark room. At this moment, a light gleamed on the wall. Was it, I asked myself, a ray from the moon penetrating some aperture in the blind? No, moonlight was still, and this stirred. While I gazed, it glided up to the ceiling and quivered over my head. I can now conjecture readily that this streak of light was in all likelihood a gleam from a lantern carried by someone across the lawn, but then, prepared as my mind was for horror, shaken as my nerves were by agitation, I thought the swift darting beam was a herald of some coming vision from another world. My heart beat thick, my head grew hot, a sound filled my ears, which I deemed the rushing of wings. Something seemed near me. I was oppressed, suffocated, endurance broke down. Another element of the Gothic is a high, even overwrought emotion. The narration may be highly sentimental, and the characters are often overcome with anger, sorrow, surprise, and especially terror. Characters suffer from raw nerves and a feeling of impending doom. Crying and emotional speeches are frequent. Breathlessness and panic are common. In the film Gothic, screaming is common. A quote about Lowood. My first quarter at Lowood seemed an age, and not the golden age either. It comprised an irksome struggle with difficulties in habituating myself to new rules and unwanted tasks. The fear of failure in these points harassed me worse than the physical hardships of my lot, though these were no trifles. Another element is women in distress and characters with aberrant psychological states. The women suffer all the more because they are often abandoned, left alone, either on purpose or by accident. Bertha, the character of Bertha, is the mad woman in the attic who suffers from congenital insanity because apparently madness runs in her family. Fearful and ghastly to me, O sir, I never saw a face like it. It was a discolored face, it was a savage face. I wish I could forget the roll of the red eyes and the fearful blackened inflation of the lineaments. The lips were swelled and dark, the brow furrowed, the black eyebrows widely raised over the bloodshot eyes. Shall I tell you of what it reminded me? Of the foul German spectre, the vampire. Another element of the Gothic are women who are threatened by a powerful, impulsive, tyrannical male. One or more male characters have the power to demand that one or more of the female characters do something intolerable. Mr. Brocklehurst is described as the dread judge. I saw myself transformed under Mr. Brocklehurst's eye into an artful, noxious child, and what could I do to remedy this injury? Deceit is indeed a sad fault in a child, said Mr. Brocklehurst. It is akin to falsehood, and all liars will have their portion in the lake burning with fire and brimstone. Mr. Brocklehurst, standing on the hearth with his hands behind his back, majestically surveyed the whole school. Suddenly his eye gave a blink, as if it had met something that either dazzled or shocked its pupil. Mr. Brocklehurst is not a god, nor is he even a great and admired man. He is little liked here. He never took steps to make himself liked. Jane Eyre includes most of the Gothic elements. Lowood, Moorhouse, and Thornfield are all remote locations, and Thornfield, like Gateshead, is also an ancient manor house. Both Rochester and Jane possess complicated family histories. Rochester's hidden wife, Bertha, is the dark secret of the novel's core, and her exposure is one of the most important moments of the story, and the mystery surrounding her is the main source of the novel's suspense. Other Gothic events include the moment of supernatural communication between Jane and Rochester when she hears his voice calling her across the misty heath from miles and miles away, and Jane's mistaking Rochester's dog, Pilot, for Gytrash, a spirit of North England that manifests itself as a horse or a dog. Finally, Gothic literature cannot be confined to its established time period. Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher, Henry James' The Turn of the Screw, and even Stephen King's work like The Shining and Dolores Claiborne could fall under the classification of Gothic fiction.